Hey, welcome back to Downgrid Survival. My name is Richard, and today we're going to be talking about your prepper library, or in other words, my prepper reading list. Now I'm going to be sharing with you some of my favorite books and the ones that I recommend highly. And you know, there's going to be some on this list that are great for me, but they may not be great for you. Either way, you're going to find links for all these books in the description section down below. Now I know it's a popular idea to download electronic copies of books and have it on your phone or your computer, laptop, or maybe a tablet. It's convenient because you have one small lightweight device and you can have thousands of books on it, which is great. But if you're thinking long-term survival in a long-term down-grid scenario, then these devices eventually will fail. You could have an accident where you drop it and crack a screen or completely destroy it. It could get wet. You know, a number of things could happen. Electronic devices, they fail all the time, right? And when one device fails, you could potentially lose all of your books. And that could be detrimental to your survival. So that's why I recommend not necessarily buying all your books digitally and having them on a single device. Yes, it's a little harder to transport and move these books around. This is not something you're going to want to bug out with. But if you have a bug out location, then you could store them there. Or if you don't plan to bug out at all, which is like most people, then just simply have these in your home. But have them as printed copies so they're quick and easy to reference, and they'll be available for generations. Now you can manage your prepper library however you decide, but I'm going to show you mine today, so let's jump on over here and take a look. Okay, I have books broken out in different categories, and this first category is Bushcraft, and coincidentally that is the title of this book. This is Bushcraft 101 by Dave Canterbury. Now if you're familiar with Dave Canterbury, he is the master in bushcraft, and he's got several books out. I like this one. I like it because it's small, lightweight, and you know, it even feels like it's got a waterproof cover on it, which is always nice. Inside this book you'll find a lot of text to read, but he does have some illustrations and some pictures. But he covers a lot of material. Everything from, you know, your pack, the items that you need to have inside your pack. He goes over tools, different types of tools for out in the bush. You know, we talk about knots and cordage. He even goes into cooking and campfires, setting up shelters, just a number of items in this book. It's a good book. I've enjoyed it so far. That is one of my highly recommended books. He's got another one here I'm going to show you. It's called Bushcraft Illustrated. And this one is a visual guide. So this has a lot of pictures and a lot of illustrations. And I'll just flip through here and show you just a little bit. I can't show you too much because of copyright concerns, right? But I can flip through the pages and kind of show you how the book is laid out. So as you can see in here, he's got a lot of the same information as that first book, but there's certainly more illustrations explaining, you know, certainly there's knots and things. He really explains those well. Stoves and cooking and shelters and bedrolls and just a number of items in here as you flip through. It's a great book. This is also a must-have on my list. It's a wealth of knowledge if you anticipate that you may find yourself out in the woods. And quite frankly, we all should consider that because anything could happen to our primary location. Here's another book. It's pretty good. It's kind of cheap, so I picked it up. And this is one on useful knots. And you know, it goes into a little more detail than what Dave Canterbury does over here. But it's got 25 useful knots, and it kind of explains to you how to make them and how you would use each of these knots, you know, how they would be best used. So this is another one that I think would be really important to pick up. Again, I don't remember the price, but it's a thin book, and I would highly consider that one there. This next one is not for everyone. This is 40 projects for backyard homesteads. And I went ahead and picked this up because there's a few items in here that interested me. But it's a hands-on, step-by-step to sustainable living. And it's a great book. There's lots of pictures in here. It covers a lot of things from garden structures to fences, how to house chickens, building sheds, solar and wind power structures, aquaponics, building beehives, plumbing, just a number of items in here. and it's a really well done book. A lot of bright pictures and illustrations to make the point. I like pictures. I'm a visual learner, so I start nodding off when I have to read a whole lot of text. But this is another great book. Okay, this next one is also not going to be for everyone, but if you are a part of a MAG, a mutual assistance group, or if you're thinking about creating a mutual assistance group, this one right here is the Survival Group Handbook. And I picked this up because we are starting a small mutual assistance group, and I found this to be very useful. Now, inside this book, it covers things like, what is a MAG, the group structure and size. It talks about building a strong foundation, conflict resolution, picking your locations, roles and responsibilities for everyone in the group, training the group, decision making, planning for contingencies, holding meetings, getting new members off to a good start. Got a whole section on that about inviting folks and getting them started. It's just a great book. However, there are no pictures, no illustrations, so for me it is a little bit of a dry read, but it's full of great information. If you're part of a mutual assistance group, I would say this would be a must-have. If you're not, then pass on that one. Okay, moving on. There's going into a different category now, and I'm just going to jump over and we're going to talk about gardening real quick. Because I'm kind of new to gardening. I grew up on a garden. We actually survived on a garden for many, many years. But I don't remember a lot because I was quite young at the time. And so we've recently started a container garden here at our home, and it's not going so great, okay? So we're trying to improve upon that so that with the food crisis that's coming, we have a better chance at being able to really sustain ourselves with fresh vegetables. So I do have a couple of books here. This one here is a great book. It's Easy Container Combos. And they kind of go into, combining flowers and vegetables and various things in pretty little pots. I don't care so much about all that. I'm just mostly interested in working with containers and how to grow vegetables in containers. And it does a really good job with that. Let's take a look. So lots of, a lot of reading, but a lot of color illustrations too. There's a climate map, but they got a whole list here of the easiest vegetables where pretty much all you have to do is add water. It talks about all those vegetables and how to care for them, where to plant them, how to plant them, and it goes on to other vegetables. It talks about different plant sizes. It talks about containers, different types of containers you can use and how to set those up. Fertilizers. And here's some watering shortcuts, so it talks about things like that. When to harvest your plants. There's a section on adding flowers to your vegetables just to make it look a little prettier, which isn't, let's talk about that for a minute, because which really isn't a bad idea. I happen to live in an HOA, right? And our HOA says, for those of you not familiar, it just means it's a homeowners co-op community where there's a set of rules that everybody has to abide by, right? And our HOA says we can't have gardens. So my only option is to plant in containers and have it like on my patio deck and maybe around my house. I could also conceal some of these in my flower beds because we have flower beds in the front of the home. So, this is actually a pretty good idea for me because I can disguise some of my vegetables with some flowers and no one's going to know. And quite frankly, a lot of vegetable plants look nice anyway. So that could be actually very, very helpful there. But the rest of the book is it's laid out very well, just a wealth of information here. So if you have a container garden, this would be a highly recommended, but I do have one more here that I just found, and so far I'm really liking it too. It's called the Vegetable Gardener's Container Bible. Now this one is laid out similarly, just full of pictures and information and how to. They talk about balcony gardens, patio gardens, working in your containers, buckets. Talks about soil and fertilizers and just a number of things there too that for someone who's just not familiar with gardening, it's been extremely helpful. How to care for your plants, when to harvest your plants. You know, even pests. It's got a section in here talking about pests and how to treat and deal with those if they pop up. So yeah, some good information here in both of these books. Recommend them both. If you can only afford one, you know, I'd say probably go with this one right here. These next couple here don't apply to everyone. I found this one here, and it's called Florida Incredible Wild Edibles. And I live in Florida, right? So I really like this book. I picked it up and started getting familiar with it. And there's a lot of illustrations in there on the types of edible plants that I can find out in nature. And I thought that could be very useful to have on hand. So it's now part of my library. If you live in Florida, recommend it. If you don't, maybe look online and see if you can find something similar for your area. But it's a great one. I picked up this one. This is my first gardening book actually I picked up. You know, it's okay. It's specific to gardening in Florida, so it's got some helpful information specific to Florida in it, so that's why I grabbed it. And then there are some unique things here. We can actually grow vegetables year-round, but our climate is extremely hot, so there's certain things we have to do. And they kind of go into that and talk about that a little bit. However, with this book, as you can see, it's all text. There's one picture, but it's all text. There's just nothing much in here. And but luckily, it's a small book, so it's not a long read. Two more categories I want to talk about real quick. One is food preservation, and the other is going to be medical. So stick around because we will be talking about the medical books at the end here. And if you're getting value out of this video, please like, comment, and subscribe down below. That really helps this channel. Okay, so the next book here that I really like, I've got 4 here. 2 of them I just really like. And the first one is The Complete Guide to Pressure Canning. I'm new to pressure canning, but with a garden, hopefully it'll start thriving. I'll have lots of vegetables that I'll either put into the freeze dryer, and I also plan to do some canning. So this book, as you can see here, it's got some illustrations, got a fair amount of reading, but it kind of goes through and just tells you everything that you need to know to can successfully, how to do it, how to prepare your foods, whether you're working with acidic foods or non-acidic foods, vegetables versus meat. They do have some recipes in here as well as how to prepare the foods and get them all canned up. So this was a good book. I'm happy with it so far. I'm excited to get started with canning. Here's another one I just found. Now this is a highly recommended one here. This is by Ball Jars, okay, if you're familiar with them. And it's a guide to preserving. So this book is also really good. I like the way it's laid out. Again, they have pictures and some illustrations. They have a lot of recipes in this book here, and it just kind of shows you how to prepare, you know, tomatoes or tomato sauces, or you know, how to prepare jams and jellies and various things like that. So, you know, I'm finding this to be a useful book if you're into canning or plan on canning. These 2 that I just showed you, I would recommend them. I also happen to have an Instapot. This book here is Instapot Meals in a Jar, which I thought is a great concept. I've always liked the whole idea of preparing meals in a jar so they're just ready to go, kind of like an MRE, but it's in a jar, right? And since we have an Instapot, we need to put that to better use, so I picked this one up. And same thing, it's mostly just kind of giving you the overview of the equipment and the how to do it, and then it's filled with quite a few recipes. And of course you can get recipes from anywhere, right? But it's the how-to section that really I've gained some knowledge, so that might be something you're interested in. There's another one, maybe you don't have an Instapot, but here's another one just simply called Meals in a Jar, and it's also really good. These are real simple recipes. Tells you how to prepare the food and how to store it in the jar. Not a lot of illustration or pictures in this one, but again, mostly just recipes. Okay, so the last category is the most important category, and this is the medical section. And this is something that is highly recommended, right? This you need to have these books in your library, straight up. This first one is Where There Is No Dentist. Now, if you think about it, a lot of people, when they start thinking about medical preps, they think first aid and they expand upon that a little bit. But a lot of people forget about their mouth, and that's a whole nother animal, right? So this is the best book out there that I've been able to find. It's really good. It's part of my dental kit that I have, my dental bag, And that's going to be another video coming out soon where I share with you everything that's in my emergency dental bag. And I should probably throw out here, right here, the disclaimer that I'm not a dentist, I'm not a doctor, don't take any of this information as medical advice, okay? This is what I do for me. You take this information and do whatever you will with it. Let's take a look at this book. And this book was actually written quite a few years ago. It's been around a little while, but it's full of illustrations, and it's really good. I mean, the information is just great. Talking about working with kids, working with adults, and all different types of dental procedures that you may encounter in a down-grid scenario when there just isn't a dentist available, and you're hurting, or a family member is really hurting bad, and you can't find a dentist. You know, this will help you. This might help you solve the problem, but it's highly recommended because it's just that good. So go out there and get this book today. The next one here, save those two for last. This next one here, we just found this recently. This is the Encyclopedia of Herbal Medicine. Herbal, we'll call it herbal medicine. My wife really likes this book. She keeps this on her desk now. She's into alternative medicines and things of that nature. No pun intended, nature. But yeah, we both really like this book, and let's take a look at it here. And there is just full of information, even a history here of where some of these medicines originated from, which I thought was fascinating. So then they jump right into key medicinal plants, and then they help you identify medicinal plants, right? And tells you the different parts of the plant that you would want to use, how to prepare it, what to use it for. So, I mean, each one has a separate category here. It talks about how to cultivate it and how to grow it, where to find it. Just a wealth of information here on every little plant that they recommend for medicinal purposes. And I tell you what, we've really enjoyed this book, and the whole book is just filled with great information. Somebody took a lot of time putting this book together, and I tell you what, highly recommend it, because there's going to come a time where, you know, the hospital's not going to be available, the pharmacy's not going to be available, and you may just find yourself on your own, and something like this just may save your life. So highly recommend that book. That is a must-have. These last two books you may have seen on other channels. They're getting to be more and more popular. And this is from Dr. Joseph Alton and Nurse Amy. They put together several books now. This first one I want to talk about is Alton's Antibiotics and Infectious Diseases. It's a rather thick book, and he really dives into detail about antibiotics, how to use them, when to use them. Talks about various diseases and how to identify different diseases. So it's really a good book. It does have some illustrations and some pictures that makes it helpful. This book has been around for, I'm not sure, but quite a few years now. But it is a great read. Well, you know, it's not story time. It's not a great read, but great information. But then they also came out with the Survival Medicine Handbook. And they've actually, this is the, what is it, the 4th edition? Yeah, this is the 4th edition. So they've had, this has been around for quite a while. And this 4th edition came out last year. When I found it, just phenomenal. This changed everything for my family and I. You know, we use this today, just day to day, to help us identify and help us to kind of figure things out. You know, this is great. And this is, disclaimer, this is something you want to use only when your doctor's not available, right? Because you don't want to be playing doctor at home. But in this book, let's take a quick look. It's detailed. I mean, first of all, look how thick this book is. It is really detailed, and they cover just about everything in here. It's easy to use. They've got a nice glossary or index in the front here. They've got a glossary in the back. You can look up by ailments and find the correct pages to go look and research. And in here, I mean, it's just, they cover it all. And there's quite a few pictures, there's quite a few illustrations, but they get pretty detailed here. Now inside this book, they do have, I think it's near the back, but they do have a section on antibiotics. So if you can't afford both of these books, okay, get this one. This one has enough information about antibiotics, the ones you should store and have on hand, and how to use them and what you can use them for. So it's really good. This should be the first book that you purchase right here. If you don't have a prepper library, this needs to be your first book. It's also the most expensive book, I believe, on the table here, but it is worth it. This can save your life. Hey, all these books, you can find links to them in the description section down below. Now, if you click on those links, I am an affiliate of Amazon, which means I earn a small commission. You don't pay anything extra, but it's a way for you to support this channel. So if you're planning on adding to your prepper library today, please use those links, and that way it supports this channel, and that's always appreciated. If you have any questions for me, also drop those down below. I'd be happy to answer those for you. And hey, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoy it. And as always, I'll try to stick another one up over here that I think you'll enjoy. So stick around, click on another one of my videos, keep supporting the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.